the last ride for years, the Steel Serpents, a violent biker gang, ruled the rugged backroads of America. Known for their ruthless drug trafficking, weapons deals, and their iron grip on small towns, they were feared wherever they roamed. With their patch-covered leather jackets and revving engines, they were untouchable, operating with impunity, knowing that no one dared challenge them. They had grown too big, too powerful, and too brutal for the average citizen to stand against. But in one small, forgotten town, nestled deep in the mountains, the gang met its match. The town of Ridgewood had always been quiet, a place where people kept to themselves and lived off the land. For years, the Steel Serpents had used Ridgewood as a base of operations, turning it into a hideout for their illegal dealings. The people were afraid to speak up. They feared the consequences of defying the gang. But what the bikers didn't know was that Ridgewood had a history that was about to rise from the ashes. A few generations ago, Ridgewood had been home to a group of veterans who had fought in wars across the globe. They were not the kind of men who took kindly to injustice, even if it was happening right on their doorstep. They had built their lives around hard work, but they also had a few other skills that the world didn't know about. Skills that came from years of military service and covert operations. The town's last surviving veterans were aging now, but still sharp, still tough, and still ready to fight for what was right. When the Steel Serpents escalated their presence, taking over businesses, intimidating families, and even trafficking in human lives, the veterans knew something had to be done. The tipping point came when the gang took a local barowner's daughter, holding her for ransom in their compound deep in the hills. The veterans, led by the former Marine Sam Hawkins, decided enough was enough. They gathered their old comrades, men who had seen everything from the jungles of Vietnam to the deserts of the Middle East. They weren't looking for a fight, but they were ready for one by one. The veterans silently infiltrated the gang's compound, using their military tactics to track and disable the bikers' operations. They planted explosives on the drug warehouses, cut off their supply lines, and sabotaged the gang's communications, all while staying under the radar. By the time the Steel Serpents realized something was wrong, it was too late. The gang tried to retaliate, sending their most trusted enforcers to find the attackers. But Hawk and his crew were ghosts in the night, using everything from hand-to-hand combat to old-school sniping to take down the bikers one by one. The veterans knew how to turn the environment to their advantage, whether it was the dense forest surrounding the compound or the narrow, winding roads leading in and out of town. They were in their element. The battle came to a head when the Steel Serpents' leader, King Johnny Varela, gathered the last of his men for a final stand. They rolled into Ridgewood with their roaring engines, ready to crush the old men who had dared to challenge them. But Hawk and his team were waiting as the bikers stormed through the town. They were ambushed. The veterans, armed with weapons from their past, launched a well-coordinated attack. The town's streets turned into a war zone, with bikers skidding through gunfire, and veterans picking them off from hidden positions. It wasn't just a battle of strength, but of wits, experience, and precision. King Johnny, enraged and desperate, led a charge directly into the center of the town. His eyes locked on Hawk, the man who had ruined everything. He gunned his engine and sped toward him, ready for a showdown. But Hawk stood his ground, calm and unyielding. With a sharp, almost effortless motion, Hawk threw a smoke grenade, filling the air with thick smoke. Johnny's bike screeched to a halt as he tried to regain control, but Hawk was already behind him, slipping through the chaos like a predator. The veteran tackled Johnny off his bike, pinning him to the ground in a brutal struggle. Johnny snarled, "You think you can stop us? We're untouchable." But Hawk didn't flinch. "You were never untouchable. You just didn't know who you were messing with one swift move." Hawk knocked Johnny out cold, his reign of terror finally coming to an end. The remaining bikers, disoriented and broken, quickly surrendered or fled into the wilderness. The town was free the next morning. The veterans stood on the porch of the bar they had defended, watching as the sun rose over the mountains. The steel serpents were gone and no longer a threat, no longer a symbol of fear. Ridgewood was safe again, but it had also been forever changed. The town's legacy was now rooted in courage, resilience, and the quiet power of men who had fought for freedom in the past and were willing to fight for it once more. As for Hawk and his team, they knew their battle wasn't over. The world had changed, and they'd continue to fight for what was right quietly, from the shadows, with the wisdom that came from their years of service. But this chapter was closed. The steel serpents had faced the wrong men, and they would never rise again. This story blends military experience with biker culture, offering a gripping showdown between a group of old veterans and a dangerous gang. It speaks to the idea that courage, honor, and loyalty to one's community can overcome even the most formidable of foes. Would you like to explore any particular aspects of the characters or events in more detail?